The broken alien girl in the trash zone. The sky above was dark and filled with purple smoke. Metal towers stood like broken teeth in the ground. Machines lay everywhere, twisted, rusted, and forgotten. This was not a city. It was a graveyard. A junkyard planet called Kerosene, where things and people were thrown away. A golden hovercar appeared in the sky. It moved fast and silent, then stopped above a pile of trash. From inside, a soft voice cried, "Please don't do this." The car opened, and a small body was thrown out. It hit the hard metal below with a thud. The door closed, and the car flew away, leaving dust in the air. The girl lay still for a moment. Her skin was pale silver, marked with glowing lines. Her eyes slowly opened. They were deep blue, filled with tears and pain. She was no older than 16 in human years. Her name was Lyra. Her body shook. Her arm was bleeding. Her thin dress was torn. She looked up at the sky where the hovercar disappeared. Her voice cracked. "Mother." There was no answer, only silence. Lyra had just been thrown away by her own family. Jack was not from this planet. He was a human from Earth, a scavenger looking for old tech to sell. He wore a dusty jacket, boots, and goggles. His ship was parked nearby, hidden behind a hill of crushed fighter drones. He heard the sound of metal crashing. Not normal for a place so quiet. He climbed the pile to look. His eyes widened. There, lying near a pile of scrap, was a girl. Not human, not dead. Alive. He ran down quickly, kneeling beside her. "Hey, are you okay?" Lyra tried to move away. "Don't touch me," she whispered, afraid. Jack raised his hands. Okay. I'm not here to hurt you. You're injured." She looked into his eyes. There was no hate, no fear, no disgust, just concern. "You're human," she said weakly. "Yes," he nodded. "Name's Jack. What's yours?" "Lyra." Jack gently pulled out a small water tube and handed it to her. "Drink." She hesitated, then took it. Her hands were shaking. "Why are you here?" Jack asked. "They didn't want me anymore." Jack frowned. "Who?" Lyra looked away. "My family." Jack was quiet. He had seen many things in the galaxy. Monsters, pirates, warlords. But what kind of parent throws away their own child? "Come with me," he said. "No," she said quickly. "I can't trust you. Humans. They hate us." "I don't hate you," Jack said softly. "I don't even know you yet." Lyra looked confused. Her whole life, she had been told humans were cruel, selfish, and dangerous. But this Jack, he looked at her like she mattered. She tried to stand but fell. Jack caught her. "Easy. You're weak. Let me help." She didn't resist this time. He carried her back to his ship. It wasn't big, but it was warm and safe. He wrapped her in a blanket and gave her food. She sat quietly, still watching him like he might change any second. "You don't have to be afraid," Jack said. "You're safe now." Lyra spoke after a long silence. "I was born wrong. My family is noble, strong bloodlines. But I have a defect." "What kind of defect?" Jack asked. "I can feel things too deeply. I can connect to others, sense their pain, their thoughts. They called it weakness. They said I would bring shame." Jack nodded slowly. "So they threw you out like trash?" "Yes." He didn't speak for a while. Then he said, "Well, they were wrong." She looked at him sharply. "What do you mean?" "I mean people like you aren't weak. You're rare, maybe even powerful." Lyra blinked. No one had ever said that to her. Suddenly, a small sound echoed from outside the ship. A soft, mechanical hum. Jack stood up quickly and looked at his scanner. A red light blinked. "What is it?" Lyra asked, scared. "Someone's out there," Jack said. "And they're not here to help." She doesn't trust humans. But he's different. The ship was quiet. Dark metal walls hummed softly from power. Small lights blinked in the corners. Outside, the wind blew across the junkyard like a ghost, carrying old memories and broken things. Inside the ship, Lyra woke up slowly. Her body still hurt, but the pain was dull now. Her skin was covered with a soft blanket, and her arm had been bandaged. A strange warmth surrounded her. This wasn't her home. This wasn't a cold palace where servants ignored her. This wasn't a silent room filled with shame and fear. This place was small, old, human, but it felt safe. Lyra sat up. The room had shelves filled with human tools, strange gadgets, and old datapads. It smelled of oil and something warm, maybe food. She heard humming from another room. Cautiously, she stood up, holding the wall for support. She moved toward the sound. Jack was in the tiny kitchen space, cooking. He wore a black shirt now, his sleeves rolled up. He was stirring something in a small pot, smiling to himself like this was just a normal morning. He didn't hear her approach. Lyra's eyes fell on a sharp tool lying on the counter, a small metal blade. Fear returned. What if this was all fake? What if he was just waiting for her to let her guard down? Her hand reached for the blade. Jack turned suddenly, and their eyes met. He saw the fear in her, the way she trembled, the way her fingers hovered near the weapon. But Jack didn't move. He didn't yell, didn't act scared. He didn't even look angry. He simply said, "Hungry." Lyra froze. "I made something soft." "Your body still needs healing," he said gently. She didn't answer. "You can take the blade if it makes you feel safer," he added. "But I hope you don't have to." Silence. Finally, she spoke. "Why are you helping me?" Jack poured soup into a bowl and placed it on the small table. "Because you needed help." "That's not how your kind works," she said quietly. Jack raised an eyebrow. "My kind." "Humans," she said. "We were told. You're cruel, dangerous, greedy." Jack sat down on the bench across from the food. "And what do you think now?" Lyra stared at him. "I don't know." "Well," he said, "I guess we'll find out together." They ate in silence. Lyra watched him carefully, studying every movement, every word, every smile. She didn't understand him. He didn't act like anyone she knew. When they were done, Jack spoke again. "So, what happened?" Lyra looked down at her hands. She hesitated. Then slowly she began. "I was born different. My species. We are cold, sharp. We follow bloodlines. Strength, control. Emotion is weakness." She looked up at him. "But I feel everything." Jack nodded, listening closely. "When I was young, I could hear thoughts, feel pain that wasn't mine, sometimes joy too. But my parents were ashamed. They told me to hide it. They punished me when I cried, said I'd bring dishonor." Her voice cracked. "I believed them." Jack leaned forward slightly. "But you still cared for them." "Yes," she whispered. "I thought, if I became quiet enough, obedient enough, they would accept me." "They never did," Jack said gently. Lyra shook her head. "No, they tried to erase me, to erase the part of me that feels." Hours passed. Jack showed her around the ship. It was small but full of life. Buttons blinked. Old posters lined the walls. Everything had a place. It was messy, but it was real. Lyra began to relax, just a little. Then something changed. A soft sound came from the outside sensor, a high-pitched beep. Jack ran to the panel and checked the screen. His face became serious. "What is it?" Lyra asked, standing behind him. "A drone. Not local," he said. "It's scanning the area. Could be your family." Her stomach turned cold. "They're looking for me." "Maybe," Jack said. "But I doubt it's to take you back." Lyra sat down slowly. "They want to erase the shame. They want to kill you," Jack said honestly. She nodded. She already knew. Jack stood up and began to gather things. "Come on," he said. "We're leaving." "Leaving?" she asked. "I can't keep you safe here. This place is too open, too close to the trade routes." "Why are you doing this?" she asked again. "Why risk your life for me?" Jack looked at her for a long time. Then he said, "Because I've been thrown away too." Lyra blinked. "What?" "Not by family," Jack said, "but by war. I was a soldier. My world fought yours. We lost." He looked at his hands. "I lost friends. I lost home. After that, no one wanted us. We were ghosts. So you left?" "Yeah." "Became a scavenger. Tried to forget." He looked at her now, eyes clear. "Then I saw you lying in the junk, and I remembered what it felt like to be forgotten." Lyra didn't know what to say. "So no," Jack added, "this isn't about saving an alien girl. It's about not walking away when someone needs help. Because no one helped me." They prepared the ship. Jack checked the engines. Lyra helped where she could. She asked him questions about Earth, about music, about laughter. He answered them all. For the first time in her life, someone was talking to her like she mattered. And that changed something inside her. As the ship lifted into the sky, leaving the junkyard behind, Lyra stood at the window. She looked down at the place where her family abandoned her. Then she turned toward Jack. "Thank you," she said softly. "You're welcome," he replied. But neither of them saw the small tracker blinking under the ship's wing. Someone had already found them. They want her dead. He wants her safe. The ship shook. Alarms screamed. Red lights blinked across the cockpit. Jack jumped into the pilot's seat, hands flying across buttons and switches. "Hold on," he shouted. Lyra gripped the seat tightly. Her heart was pounding. Outside, space burned. A blast of energy just missed them. It came from behind. A hunter ship. Fast. Sharp. Black like a shadow. "They're following us," she cried. "Yeah," Jack said, teeth gritted. "And they're not friendly." The hunter ship was closing in. Its cannons were charging again. Jack pushed the thrusters to max. The small ship groaned. Old engines roared, but they moved fast, through the asteroid belt ahead. "Are we going to make it?" Lyra asked. Jack glanced at her. "We have to." The hunter ship fired again. Jack swerved between rocks and ice. Asteroids floated in every direction. One wrong move, and they'd be smashed to dust. Lyra closed her eyes and whispered to herself. Jack noticed. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. "I can feel them." "Feel who?" "The ones chasing us. Their thoughts are cold, focused. They want to kill me." Jack's face hardened. "Not on my watch." He slammed a button. A trapdoor under the ship opened, dropping metal debris into space. Sharp scraps flew back toward the hunter ship. One piece hit the enemy's wing. A spark, a small explosion. The hunter ship slowed down. "Yes," Jack shouted. "We bought some time." They escaped the belt and jumped into hyperspace. Everything outside turned into a blur of light. Finally, silence. Jack leaned back in his chair, breathing hard. "We're clear, for now." Lyra still looked shaken. Her hands trembled. Jack stood and placed a hand on her shoulder. "We're okay. They didn't get us." "Not this time," she whispered. "But they'll come again." Jack nodded. "Then we keep moving." Hours later, the ship floated above a green moon. Soft clouds swirled around it. Jack landed the ship in a hidden valley full of strange plants and crystal blue streams. Lyra stepped outside. The air smelled sweet. The sky was a soft orange. Birds flew overhead. It felt peaceful, but she didn't feel peace. Jack checked his scanner again. No signs of ships nearby. "We'll rest here," he said. "Get some sleep." "I don't sleep much," she said softly. Jack looked at her. "Nightmares." "Worse," she replied. "Memories." They sat by the fire Jack had made from old ship fuel and local wood. You said you could feel things, he said. Yes, Lyra replied. People's thoughts, feelings, sometimes even their memories. Jack nodded. Can you read mine? Lyra shook her head. You're blocked, like your heart is guarded. He smiled a little. You're not wrong. A long silence. Then Lyra asked, who was she? Jack looked up. You had someone, she said. I can't read your thoughts, but I feel your sorrow. Jack stared into the fire. Her name was Elen, he said. We were both soldiers. She believed in peace, always tried to stop fights before they began. What happened to her? Lyra asked gently. She died protecting alien kids during the war, Jack replied. Her own squad left her behind, but she stayed. Lyra's eyes softened. She sounds like someone I would have liked. You remind me of her, Jack said quietly. Lyra looked surprised. You care, he said. Even after what they did to you, you still feel. That's not weak, Lyra. That's strength. Tears filled her eyes. No one ever told me that before. Jack smiled sadly. Then they were fools. The fire died down. Stars shone above them. Lyra lay on a soft patch of moss. Jack sat nearby, watching the scanner. She looked at him once more before sleeping. Why do you keep protecting me? Jack didn't answer right away. Then he said, because no one should feel like they don't matter. The next morning came with a whisper. But the peace didn't last long. The scanner beeped again. Slow, steady. Something was coming. Jack woke Lyra. We have to move. Now. She nodded without a word. As they reached the ship, a sharp noise sliced the sky. A black drone dropped from above. Lyra gasped. It's theirs, my family. The drone scanned the area, then turned toward them. Jack pulled out his blaster. Run to the ship. He fired. One shot hit the drone's eye. The drone sent out a loud alarm before crashing. They'll trace that, Lyra said. They know where we are now. Jack looked at her. Then we take a new path. They lifted off the moon. As they flew, Lyra touched the control screen gently. It blinked. Blue light swirled. What are you doing? Jack asked. Using my power, she said. I can confuse their signals. Hide us. But it takes energy. Don't hurt yourself, Jack warned. I'll be fine, she said softly. Just stay close. They flew quietly through a nebula. Gas clouds sparkled like jewels, but behind them, danger still followed. Jack turned to her. You don't have to do this alone, Lyra. I've always been alone, she said. Not anymore, Jack replied. She looked at him, and for the first time, she believed it. But deep in space, on a giant warship painted in gold and black, a figure stepped out of the shadows. His voice was cold. She lives. Yes, my lord, the drone commander replied. She travels with a human. The figure narrowed his eyes. Then the human dies, and she returns, or she is destroyed. As you command. The ship changed course, straight toward Jack, and Lyra the power she was told to hide. The storm came before sunrise. Outside the ship, the wind roared across the empty desert moon. Lightning flashed in the sky, blue and white, touching the ground like angry fingers. Sand swirled in high circles, rising like ghosts. Inside, Jack stood at the cockpit. His eyes locked on the radar screen. A red dot blinked closer. They found us again, he whispered. Behind him, Lyra stood still, staring at the same screen. Her breathing was slow. Her eyes glowed faintly, like cold fire. I thought the shield was strong enough, she said. So did I, Jack replied. But someone out there really wants you gone. My brother, she said quietly. He's the one leading them now. Jack turned to her. You never mentioned a brother. He was the perfect one, Lyra said. The one with the strong mind and no feelings. He's their new leader, and he will not stop. Jack loaded his blaster and strapped a shield pack to his back. Then we hold them off. No, Lyra said, her voice calm. This time, I fight. Jack looked confused. Lyra, your power was never meant to stay hidden, she said. The door of the ship opened slowly. Hot wind blew in. Lightning flashed again. Lyra stepped out first. Her silver skin shimmered in the electric light. Her long hair flowed behind her like smoke. She raised both her hands. The sand lifted with her. A squad of armored enemies stood across the field, weapons ready. Behind them stood her brother, tall and dressed in black and gold. His voice echoed, "Return now, Lyra. We can erase the shame, or die here with your human." Lyra stepped forward. Her voice was steady. "I am not your shame, and Jack is not your enemy. Then you are no longer part of our blood." "I was never part of it," she whispered. Her brother raised his hand. Fire. The first blast flew straight toward her, but it never hit. A burst of blue light exploded around her, pushing the shot back like a wave. The enemy soldiers stepped back. Jack ducked behind a rock, watching her with wide eyes. She wasn't scared anymore. Lyra lifted her arms higher. The sand turned into spinning blades. The air cracked with energy. A second shot came, this one stronger. She caught it in midair and crushed it with her mind. The enemy soldiers began to fall back. Her brother growled, "Traitor." He leaped forward with a blade that crackled with dark energy. Jack saw it. Lyra. But she didn't run. She turned. The blade came down. She caught it with her bare hand. Her eyes burned blue. Light flowed from her skin like water. The blade hissed and melted in her grip. "You cannot hurt me anymore," she said. Her brother screamed and fell back. "You were born broken." "No," she said. "I was born different. And now, I'm free." With a wave of her hand, she sent him flying backward. He crashed into the sand and didn't get up. The wind died down. Silence fell. The enemy soldiers dropped their weapons and ran. Jack walked out from his cover, his blaster still warm in his hand. He stared at her. What was that? Lyra was breathing heavily. She fell to her knees. Jack ran to her side. "Are you okay?" She nodded. "It just took everything." He helped her stand. "You did it." "I didn't want to kill them," she said. "But I wasn't going to be silent anymore." Jack smiled. "You weren't. You roared." They returned to the ship. Jack helped her rest. He made warm food. She barely touched it. "I didn't know it would feel like this," she said, lying on the soft bench. "Like what?" "Using my gift, not hiding it." Jack sat beside her. "It looked like it belonged to you." "Maybe it does," she whispered. "But now, they'll send someone worse." Jack frowned. "Worse than your brother?" "Yes," she said. "The elder." "Who's that?" She looked at him, eyes dark. "My mother." Hours passed. The ship flew through quiet space. Jack looked over the damage report. The engine had been pushed hard. The shield was weak. Fuel was dropping. They had to land soon. Lyra stood beside him now, her body still tired, but her spirit stronger. "We need to talk," she said. Jack looked at her. "About what?" "About you," she said. "You keep helping me, risking everything." Jack looked away. "You think I don't notice," he added. "But I do." Jack finally spoke. "I do it because I believe in you." Lyra blinked. "Why?" "Because someone once believed in me," he said, "and when I lost her, I lost my way. But you remind me that light can survive the dark." Tears touched her eyes. "No one's ever said that to me," she whispered. Jack smiled. "Then it's about time someone did." Suddenly, the radar beeped. A new signal. Bigger, colder, closer. Lyra froze. "She's here," she whispered. "My mother." The ship's window darkened as a massive shadow moved above them. A golden cruiser, larger than any ship Jack had ever seen, blocked the stars. A voice echoed through their comms. "This is High Matriarch Syrian of the Canary Empire. Surrender the girl and be spared." Jack looked at Lyra. She stood up straight. "Open channel," she said. Jack hesitated, then pressed the button. Lyra's voice came through clear. "Mother." A long silence. Then the voice replied. "So you live. I thought your weakness would finish you." "You were wrong," Lyra said. "I'm not weak, and I'm not yours anymore." The voice replied coldly. "We will cleanse your shame from the stars." "Try," Lyra said, "but this time I won't run." The channel cut. Jack stared at her. "You ready for this?" Lyra nodded. "I'm not just surviving anymore," she said. "I'm fighting." Jack grinned. "Then let's make them remember what happens when they throw away something powerful." She fights for him, not for them. The ship trembled. Lights flickered as the massive Canary warship hovered overhead. Jack gripped the controls tightly, his eyes scanning the radar. The golden cruiser was far too close now. Its guns were locked onto them, a thin beam of energy already pulsing from its cannons. "They're firing," Jack shouted, slamming his hand on the dashboard. A shockwave blasted through the ship, throwing them sideways. Lyra screamed as the ship veered out of control, spinning in the vast emptiness of space. The engines groaned, the hull cracked. Debris flew, and the ship tumbled like a leaf in a storm. "Jack!" she cried, trying to hold herself steady against the walls. "Jack, get us out of here." He was already trying, hands moving like lightning, flipping switches and pulling levers. "I'm trying. Hold on." Another blast hit. This time, it hit near the engine room. "We're going to lose power," Jack shouted, looking at the readout. "The engines are going down." They were drifting now. The ship's speed was dropping quickly. They were sitting ducks for whatever was coming next. "Lyra," Jack said, "we need to leave. Now." "No." Lyra's voice was cold, calm. She moved to the front of the ship, her eyes locked onto the massive enemy cruiser. Jack looked at her, his face filled with disbelief. "What do you mean?" "No." Lyra turned to him, her silver skin shimmering even in the dim light. "They want me," she said softly. "But they will not take me. Not like this." Jack's heart beat faster. "Lyra, what are you going to do?" She stared at him, her blue eyes glowing faintly. There was no fear in her. There was only determination. "I'm going to stop them," she said simply. "For good." Jack's mouth went dry. "Lyra, don't." "I have to," she interrupted, stepping back. The air in the ship began to crackle. Her hands began to glow. First faintly, then brighter, until the whole cockpit was filled with a soft blue light. She raised her arms, eyes closed, breathing deeply. Jack watched, helpless. He knew she had power. But this was something different, something bigger. "No one is taking me back," Lyra whispered, almost to herself. Jack gripped the seat as a force field of pure energy began to form around her. It shimmered like liquid light, bending the space around her. He knew what was coming, but he wasn't sure he could survive it. The Canary warship loomed larger now. Its cannons glowed, charging up for the final strike. In that moment, Lyra's eyes snapped open, glowing bright like twin stars. Her entire body pulsed with energy. "You will not," she said, her voice echoing through the ship, "hurt him." With a sudden motion, she raised both arms. The air shook. Jack's heart raced as the entire ship rattled. Something inside her was breaking through, something raw and untamed. The force field around her expanded, crashing into the walls of the cockpit, sending sparks flying everywhere. "Lyra," Jack shouted, trying to move toward her. "Stop, it's too much." But she didn't stop. The energy around her built and built, until it was no longer just a field. It was a storm, a whirlwind of glowing power, swirling around the ship. The very walls of the vessel began to bend, and crack under the force of it. Jack fell to his knees, struggling to hold on to the ship's controls. The sound was deafening now. The hum of her power filled the whole ship, making everything vibrate with energy. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, everything went silent. Jack looked up, breathless. Lyra stood in the center of the cockpit, her arms at her sides, her skin still glowing. The energy around her was gone, but the ship was still in one piece. The windows were intact. Everything was still, but something had changed. Jack's eyes widened as he saw what had happened. Outside, the massive Canary cruiser was now motionless. Its guns had gone dark. Its engines were completely dead. The once mighty warship had been completely shut down. Lyra's power had neutralized it, completely. Jack slowly stood up, still in shock. "Lyra, you stopped them." She nodded, her voice soft. "I didn't want to kill them, Jack. I didn't want to hurt them. But I won't let them take me, or you." Jack slowly stepped toward her, his gaze softening. "You don't have to be afraid anymore. They can't hurt you." Lyra turned to face him, her eyes tired but filled with something new, something lighter. "I'm not afraid anymore," she said. "I'm finally free." The ship's scanner pinged again. Jack's hand hesitated over the control panel. But this time, the signal wasn't from the Canary warship. It was from a small craft, one with a human signature. "It's a distress signal," Jack said, studying the screen. "Someone's out there." Lyra blinked, confused. "Another human." "Looks like it," Jack replied. "We've got to check it out." He turned to her, his face serious. "You're okay, right? I mean, that was a lot." Lyra smiled for the first time in what felt like forever. "Yeah, I'm okay. Let's go see who needs help." The two of them guided the ship toward the source of the distress signal. As they neared, a small vessel came into view, broken, drifting, and slowly spinning in space. Jack shook his head. "How long has that been out here?" Lyra didn't answer right away. She was still watching the broken ship, her mind clearly elsewhere. Jack could see her thinking. "Lyra?" She snapped back to the present. "Sorry. I'm just still trying to understand all of this." "Yeah, I get that," Jack said. "But let's focus on this first." They landed near the damaged ship, and Jack quickly got to work with the boarding gear. When they opened the airlock, they found the ship's sole occupant, a human woman, barely conscious and barely alive. "She's in bad shape," Jack said, rushing to her side. "We need to get her back to our ship." Lyra stood back, watching as Jack worked to stabilize the woman. "Thank you." The woman whispered weakly, her eyes fluttering open. "Thank you for saving me." Jack nodded, but Lyra couldn't help feeling something strange. She felt this woman's pain, a sharp, jagged feeling. The woman was more than just hurt. She was broken, in a way that Lyra understood. But she didn't know how to help. As Jack carried the woman back to the ship, Lyra followed, her mind racing. She had just learned to control her powers, but she was still unsure of how far she could go. The Elder has arrived. And she must choose. The ship glided through the emptiness of space. Outside, stars twinkled like scattered diamonds. It was beautiful, yet heavy with silence. Inside, the air felt thick, full of thoughts, fears, and a growing unease. Lyra sat at the small table in the ship's back room, her fingers tracing the edge of an old map Jack had found. The lights were dim, and the hum of the engines felt like a quiet song in the background. But she wasn't listening to it. Her mind was elsewhere. The human woman they had rescued, Amira, was lying in the small medical bay, unconscious but stable. Jack had been working on her ever since they'd brought her aboard. Lyra had tried to focus on the stars outside, but her thoughts kept pulling her back. She couldn't stop thinking about the Canary warship and the Elder. The image of her mother, Syrian, haunted her, cold, proud, calculating. The woman who had once been her greatest enemy, yet also her closest link to a family that had never truly cared for her. She closed her eyes. She could still feel her brother's presence, the coldness in his eyes, the weight of his words. "You are broken." He had said it like it was a curse. But it wasn't a curse anymore. Now she was free. "You are free," she whispered softly to herself, but the words didn't feel as comforting as she hoped. Jack entered the room, his face tired but soft. His eyes met hers, and he offered a small smile. "How are you holding up?" Lyra looked at him, her expression unreadable. "I'm fine." He pulled out a chair and sat across from her. "Amira's still out cold, but she'll be okay. Her vitals are improving." Lyra nodded, but didn't say anything. Jack watched her for a moment, then asked gently, "Lyra, what's really going on? You've been quiet." She looked down at her hands. Her silver skin seemed to shimmer faintly in the light, her fingers twitching with the memory of the power she had used. It still felt strange to her, to feel so much. "It's my mother," she said, her voice low. "The elder." Jack frowned. "Your mother?" Lyra nodded slowly. "She was the leader of the Kinari before me, the one who controlled everything. She's the reason I was born to carry the Kinari bloodline. And now..." Lyra hesitated. "She wants me to come back, but not as her daughter. As a weapon, to fight, to destroy. She doesn't see me as a person. She sees me as her tool." Jack's voice was soft. "You're not a tool. You're a person. You're who you choose to be." Lyra looked up at him, her eyes still full of doubt. "I don't know if I can do it. If I can fight her, fight my past. I don't know if I'm ready." Jack reached across the table and took her hand gently. "You don't have to do it alone." Lyra looked at him, her breath catching in her chest. There was something in his eyes, something strong, something she had never seen in anyone before. Trust. Pure, simple trust. Her heart twisted, but she wasn't sure how to accept it. Not yet. The hours passed. The tension between them simmered but never broke the surface. Jack focused on keeping the ship in motion, and Lyra remained lost in thought. Her powers were growing, and she was afraid. Afraid of what she could do. Afraid of losing control. The ship's radar beeped suddenly. "What is it?" Lyra asked, standing up quickly. Jack's face was pale. "It's her. Syrian. She's coming for us." Lyra's breath caught in her throat. "She's really here." Jack nodded grimly. "We don't have much time." The ship slowed to a crawl as the massive Kinari cruiser loomed ahead. It was gold and black, the symbol of the Kinari Empire burned onto its side like a scar. A message came through on the comms, loud and clear. "This is Elder Syrian of the Kinari Empire. Return my daughter to me, and I will spare your lives." Lyra stepped forward, her eyes narrowing. "She's lying." Jack stood by her side. "We're not giving you up." "You have no choice," came the cold voice of Syrian. "Your human companion will die first, and then you will come willingly, or I will destroy everything you care about." Lyra stood tall, her voice steady. "You don't scare me anymore, Mother." There was a long pause. Then the voice of Syrian came again, softer but more menacing. "You will regret this." The transmission cut. Jack rushed to the controls. "She's not waiting any longer. She's launching a full assault." Lyra closed her eyes and took a deep breath. "I'll stop her," she said, her voice low and determined. "Lyra, no," Jack warned. "You don't know what she's capable of. This isn't just a fight. This is a war." "I don't care," she replied. "I won't let her destroy everything. I won't let her destroy you." Jack looked at her, his eyes full of concern. But he didn't argue. Instead, he did the only thing he could do. He trusted her. The ship shook violently as enemy fire began to hit their shields. Lyra felt the energy inside her stir. A cold fire began to burn in her chest. She closed her eyes and reached out with her power. She could feel everything. Everything around her. The ship, the stars outside, even Jack's heartbeat. It all pulsed in harmony with her. And she realized something in that moment. She wasn't just a weapon. She wasn't just a tool. She was alive. And she would fight. The power inside her swelled. She lifted her hands, and the ship's walls vibrated with energy. Outside, she could hear the enemy ships closing in. But she didn't care. She focused all her energy on one thing, blocking the incoming fire. She slammed her hands down. The energy burst out in a blinding flash of blue light. Jack flinched, but the ship held firm. Lyra opened her eyes, her body glowing faintly. "We're still alive," Jack said in disbelief. "We will be," she said softly, "as long as I'm here." Outside, the Canary ships began to retreat, but the battle was far from over. Lyra had made her choice. She had chosen to fight. For herself, for Jack, for her future. But her mother wasn't done yet. "Prepare for the final assault," Sirian's voice boomed across the comms. "This is your last warning." Lyra gripped the edge of the cockpit and stared out at the dark horizon. She wasn't going to run anymore. This was her fight. She chooses her own worth, and her human. The silence of space had never felt so suffocating. Lyra stood at the front of the cockpit, her eyes locked onto the massive Canary warship that hovered ominously above them. The enemy fleet, surrounding them on all sides, was a sight to behold. Gleaming ships, weapons primed, ready to unleash their fury. The only thing that separated them from complete destruction was the ship she stood in, a ship barely holding together after the chaos they had already survived. Jack stood beside her, his eyes filled with a mix of concern and determination. "We can't outrun them anymore, Lyra. They've got us cornered." "I know," she replied quietly, her voice calm yet heavy with the weight of what was about to come. She turned to him, her eyes steady. "But I won't run. Not anymore." Jack's heart clenched. He could see the change in her. The fear that once held her back was gone, replaced by a strength he never imagined she'd have. She was ready to face her past, her family, and her destiny head-on. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid of it. "What are you going to do?" he asked, his voice tight. Lyra took a deep breath and turned back to the ship's controls. "I'm going to end this. Now." The Canary fleet began to move. The first shot came quickly, fast, and brutal, aimed directly at them. Lyra raised her hands without thinking, and a burst of energy shot out from her palms, deflecting the blast. It didn't even break a sweat. "That's not enough," Lyra said, her voice colder now. "They won't stop until I give them a reason." Jack's eyes widened as he realized what she was planning. "Lyra, don't." But she was already moving. Her hands glowed as she raised them high above her head. The ship's engines hummed to life in response to her power. A shockwave of energy expanded outward, sending waves through the surrounding space, shaking the very foundations of the fleet. The Canary ships faltered, their systems momentarily disrupted. Their weapons faltered as if uncertain. But they quickly regained their composure, and their next barrage came faster and stronger. Lyra's eyes burned with intensity. "This ends now," she whispered to herself. Jack watched in disbelief. The power radiating off of her was unreal. It was like watching a storm unravel, a force of nature born of desperation, but also of purpose. She wasn't just protecting herself now, she was fighting. Outside, the first of the Canary ships fired. Lyra deflected it. Then another came. She shattered it with a flick of her wrist. Each attack made her stronger, each pulse of energy growing bigger. With every wave of her hand, she brought more and more of the Canary fleet to its knees. Jack's eyes were wide with amazement as the ship trembled beneath their feet, the air around them thick with the power Lyra was unleashing. But he couldn't ignore the fear in his chest. He knew what this was doing to her. Her hands trembled now, though she fought to maintain control. "Lyra," he whispered, a sense of helplessness rising in his chest. "Don't push yourself too far." But she didn't respond. She couldn't. The pressure building inside her was becoming too great. She could feel it in her veins, This power, this energy, it was her, but at the same time, it was beyond her. It was a part of her, but it was also controlling her. And the more she fought, the more she wanted to give in. Then, from the heart of the Canary Fleet, Syrian's ship emerged, a massive gold-encrusted cruiser unlike any ship Lyra had ever seen. It was a symbol of the Canary Empire, their throne. "There she is," Lyra said through clenched teeth, eyes narrowing. Jack looked at her, his face tight. "Don't go to her, Lyra." But she didn't hear him. She was already stepping forward, her feet glowing as she moved toward the ship's exit. "I have to." Jack moved quickly to grab her arm. "Lyra, please, don't go after her alone." She turned to him, her eyes full of fear and resolve. "This isn't just about me. It's about everyone she's hurt. Everything she's destroyed." She paused, her breath heavy. "This is my fight." He hesitated. There was no stopping her now. The choice was hers. "Then let me help you," he said, his voice low. Her eyes softened, but she knew it wasn't just her fight. "You're not the one they want, Jack." He gripped her hand. "But I'm the one you need." The Canary cruiser loomed closer. Its guns were locked onto them. "Prepare for combat." A deep, booming voice came from the comms. "Lyra, daughter of Syrian, surrender. Return to the Empire. You have no future here." Lyra's eyes flicked toward the voice, her body tensing. "Syrian, the elder, her mother. You are not my mother anymore," she whispered, her voice fierce and low. "You have no power over me." Her hand shot out in front of her. The ship's shields flickered, and then they exploded. An enormous shockwave spread out from her body, disintegrating the enemy's incoming attack, throwing their ships off course. Everything in its path was destroyed, except for her. But Lyra collapsed to her knees. Her energy was draining. Jack ran to her side, panic seizing him. "Lyra, stop. You're pushing yourself too hard." She couldn't answer. She was losing her grip on reality, her body too weak from the strain of using so much power. "Lyra, please," he shouted, his voice breaking. "We don't have to do this. Not like this." Lyra's breathing was shallow, but she smiled weakly. "I'm not afraid anymore, Jack. I'm not afraid to be who I am, to be me." Then something unexpected happened. As Lyra's body faltered, her mother's voice came through the comms again. But this time it was different. Softer, more unsure. "Lyra," the voice said, almost a whisper, "I never meant for it to be like this. You were never supposed to be this way. I just wanted you to be strong." Lyra's eyes flickered open, and she turned to the comms. "You don't know me," she whispered. "And you never did." For the first time in her life, she realized something she had never allowed herself to feel before. Anger wasn't her burden anymore. The weight of her mother's expectations, the endless pressure, the shame, it wasn't hers to carry. She didn't need to be the perfect weapon. She didn't need to be the perfect daughter. She was herself, and that was enough. The enemy ships slowly turned, retreating into the distance, abandoning their mission. Syrian's ship, too, began to pull away, its weapons still powered, but now filled with doubt. "You don't get to control me anymore," Lyra muttered, watching her family retreat. "I choose my own path." Jack knelt beside her, his face full of worry, but also pride. "You did it, Lyra," he said softly. "You fought for yourself." She smiled faintly. "For us." As the ship drifted through space, the once dominant Canary Empire now behind them, Lyra leaned back against the chair, exhaustion taking over. But this time, she didn't feel fear, only freedom. Jack reached out and took her hand. "Where do we go from here?" he asked. Lyra looked at him, her eyes clear. "Wherever we want." And for the first time, it felt like there was no limit to what they could do or who they could become. The end.